Hello there and good afternoon. My name is Don Arleth, coming to you live from Warsaw. You're watching World News. Moscow has received a quote-unquote quite acceptable offer from Washington, according to a top Kremlin aide. He also hinted that the venue for the meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, has already been decided.
Kremlin's top foreign policy advisor Yuri Ushakov confirmed that a meeting between Trump and Putin is set to happen in the coming days.
There was an offer made by the Americans that we consider quite acceptable.
When asked about the words of U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio that Moscow and Washington had something to discuss, Ushakov responded simply,
Rubio is correct.
Ushakov also hinted that a time and place have already been agreed upon, but without revealing further details. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed to meet after Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff visited Moscow on Wednesday.
That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
In an interview with Fox Business, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed that during Witkoff's visit, Russia clearly communicated its conditions for ending the war in Ukraine.
If we can get what the Ukrainians will accept and what the Russians will accept close enough, then I think there's the opportunity for the president to have a meeting that includes both Putin and Zelensky to try to close this thing out.
For now, however, only Putin and Trump are set to meet, as confirmed by the Kremlin.
Russia confirms Putin-Trump summit may happen next week, and summit preparations are ongoing. This can be a historic meeting. Dialogue will prevail.
For people on the ground in Ukraine, however, there's no going back to normalcy, even if the war ends.
You can imagine how much time we spoke with the victims and the relatives of the victims, and they asked me personally and my team when Russian soldiers and commanders, when they will be punished.
August 8 marks the deadline for Trump's ultimatum demanding Russia commit to a ceasefire. With the meeting between the two leaders approaching, questions arise about what it could mean.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has been briefing various European leaders on the priorities of a proposed peace summit aimed at ending Russia's ongoing invasion. According to the Ukrainian leader, the goals of the meeting, if it is to occur, would center on ensuring that a short-term ceasefire with Russia results in a long-term peace.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has been making a series of long-distance calls on Thursday aiming to update his European allies on the state of play regarding US President Donald Trump's spearheaded ceasefire negotiating efforts, which would put Zelenskyy face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The latest is that Ukrainian president spoke with the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on the phone, in which von der Leyen reiterated that the European Union is firmly behind Zelenskyy as he inches towards those ceasefire talks. According to a post on social media platform X, the leaders also both discussed Ukraine's EU accession bid. The war-torn country firmly lodged its application in 2022 following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Many see this as an attempt for the war-torn country to shore up its own security and defensive needs as it weathers another year of Russian aggression. Before this phone call, we did receive an update that Zelenskyy spoke to French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. In both of the calls, the leaders emphasized that Europe is behind Zelenskyy, but also that Europe plays an important role in these discussions as this attack by Russia occurred on European soil, and it will have ripple effects over the next 10 years in terms of security and defensive architecture. We know that Zelenskyy has briefed these leaders on the priorities of what he wants to come out of this three-person summit if it is to occur, one of the most important of which being that formalized structure in which European allies can offer their support to ensure that this peace is not just a once-off, but continues for decades. Whether this will resemble formalised security guarantees and what role American allies in particular will play is yet to be seen. But what we know is that these phone calls is an attempt by Zelenskyy to ensure that he has friends on the European continent to back him when he goes into the room with Trump and Putin to hopefully find an end to the bloodshed. Angela Scoogens from Brussels for TVP World.
Just hours after high-level U.S.-Russia talks in Moscow, Russian forces launched a wave of drone and rocket attacks on Ukrainian cities. The bombardment left at least 6 civilians dead and dozens more wounded, showing once again that on the ground, diplomacy remains outpaced by aggression and destruction.
Ukraine woke up to another grim tally of civilian casualties. The country's air force said Russia launched 112 Shahed drone and decoy drones overnight, and while air defenses shot down 89 of them, 23 drones still managed to strike multiple targets. The city of Sumy was hit hard late Wednesday. Around 9 p.m., multiple launch rocket systems struck the Kopakivsky district. 7 residential buildings were damaged and a gas pipeline breach left dozens of households without heating or cooking supply.
I didn't know what to do, where to run. The window glass blew out, and our neighbors too, from the blast wave. But otherwise, nothing serious. The most important thing is that we're alive. Everything else can be fixed.
In the south, the Zaporizhia region recorded 723 separate strikes across 12 communities. The eastern Donetsk region also suffered casualties. 2 civilians were killed in Konstantinivka and 6 other wounded. Further injuries were reported in Kherson, Dnipro and Kharkiv regions, where civilians were caught in a crossfire. These fresh attacks came just hours after U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff met with Vladimir Putin in Moscow, talks that Washington hoped might reduce battlefield tensions. But Russia's actions on the ground suggest otherwise. No ceasefire, just more drones, more rockets, more bloodshed.
U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the Commerce Department to conduct a nationwide census, excluding undocumented migrants. According to Trump's post on Truth Social, the population count should be based on, quote, modern-day facts and figures, as well as the results of the 2024 presidential election. With this move, Trump is revisiting policy objectives from his first term in office. At the time, the decision not to include undocumented migrants in the census was challenged, and courts ruled that only Congress had the power to determine who could and could not be counted. Joe Biden reversed Trump's policy with an executive order during his first month in office. Trump's attack on the census is yet another development in his war on illegal migration, which includes mass arrests and deportations. Germany is set to prolong controls on all land borders past the previously set end date of September 15th. In a podcast, German Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt said that the border checks within the Schengen area will be necessary until the EU's external borders are properly secured. The move is a continuation of policy of the former German government. Germany introduced border controls in September of 2024, although they had already been in place along borders with Poland, the Czech Republic, and Switzerland since 2023. Dobrindt, however, has been responsible for intensifying these checks, as well as enforcing a policy of turning away asylum seekers. According to German police, nearly 3,000 people have been turned away this year while attempting to cross into Germany from Poland. At the same time, Poland will also prolong its own border checks, at least until October. And that concludes this edition of World News, but do stay tuned because The Bottom Line with Marie Cato is coming up next.